Happy Saturday morning. That means it is time for Cynthia Hash to join us to take us into the reality of real estate. And last week's program, yesterweek, that was a phrase my son used to use. Yesterday, we spoke about price reductions, and there was so much left over. It's time for a sequel, and hopefully it lives up to some of the great sequels like Godfather Part 2, maybe not as violent. Cynthia, good morning. How are you doing?
Hey, doing great, Joe. Thank you for having me. I really think what we're dealing with is the reason why it's so uh, price reductions is such a big issue right now is because they're starting to happen more often. And we've gone over what sellers should know about price reductions, but we need to go over what buyers should know about price reductions as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a two-sided equation. Just to catch up, though, I mean, is this, I think you told us last week as well, this is sort of indicative of a market that's coming back from crazy land, during COVID when everyone had cash burning through their pockets and looking for someplace they could relocate out of the big dangerous cities to a
Yeah.
more balanced marketplace.
Yeah, that's very true. And what we're dealing with uh, is a shift.
Hmm.
It's a shift is what is the main thing, the main takeaway, I think. And what's it shifting from versus what is it shifting to? And what we're
Good point.
shifting from right now is a basically a very unfair and frenzy of a seller's market.
Hmm.
And what we're shifting to is more of a stable market. And the reason it's not something to panic over is the fact that this is a correction. And when you're in a correction of super high inflationary market, that since, like right during COVID and right afterwards and
Hmm.
so forth, then something needs to change. And it needs to be uh, a correction that isn't something to freak about.
Well,
And
it's like any marketplace. If the number of buyers comes down or the amount of money they have to spend comes down, the seller has to take that into account, don't they?
That's exactly right. And so right now, we talked about what sellers needed to know.
Hmm.
And so now, um, this is something more like what buyers need to know because their buyers might be seeing price reductions, but they might have a different take on it. You know,
Okay.
they might have a completely different viewpoint. And so what are we doing? So
Hmm.
why? Okay, everybody wants to know why prices are being reduced.
Sure.
Well, it's because the housing market has basically cooled, like I said, from that frenzy over the last few years, and higher interest rates, right, and so forth. Well, now interest rates are going down just a little bit, but maybe not as rapidly as everybody would like. Um, but what that also means is that the inventory is growing. So you've got a little bit of confidence of the sellers back, and so it increases the inventory.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then when buyer that gives what does that do for buyers? It gives them more choices.
Sure.
And so now instead of them having to make a snap decision because they're and be in multiple offer situations and that crazy period that we had,
Hmm.
it's now not like that anymore. So now they can take a little bit more time, make a little bit maybe hopefully wiser decisions and maybe get better terms than they might not have in the past few years.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well,
So,
if there is 10 people bidding on the same house, obviously it's going to drive up the price of the house. But so are you seeing something where it's more like, one buyer per house or, two or three buyers per houses?
yeah, more often is it's a single buyer, maybe maybe two offers competing against each other, and
Wow.
that's what I'm seeing more so now. But these reductions are actually also reflecting market feedback. So
Okay.
fewer, if you have fewer showings, or you have some sort of like interest level that has been kind of stalled, like
Hmm.
no, you're not getting as many people in the door, kind of thing.
Hmm.
But it's more. Look at it this way: it is not necessarily an issue with the house itself.
Well, is it? And I think when you talk about it going back to a balanced market, and it's not my first rodeo around the block. Hold on, I'm mixing metaphors here. Um, could you imagine that, a rodeo around your block?
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be fun.
yeah, it would wreak havoc on the streets. But that it also becomes more likely driven by the where. So Waynesboro, for example, is a hot commodity. People are
Mhm,
expecting, a lot of new people moving in with the Northrop Grumman and associated
mhm,
businesses and such. But that may not be the same in Stewart's Draft or Stanton,
mhm.
or even Western Albemarle, where maybe there aren't new jobs coming in, or so it's becoming more of a case of place than just it's a house, let's get it.
Yeah, it kind of is, and buyers can be a little bit more careful now. I think there's also isn't Merck doing some
Oh yeah.
expanding in Elkton area
Yep.
too?
Yep. So
Um,
yeah, you've got
hmm
some spots where new people will be having, if not new jobs, more take
Right.
home pay.
That's yeah, and wouldn't that be great?
Hmm.
But you got to think that buyers are they're in that bracket where they literally have hard caps on what they can afford monthly.
Hmm.
And so basically for them, the pricing strategy when they see those price reductions, it really shouldn't signal anything but the positioning of the marketplace and the feedback in the marketplace and what current market data actually is. And this you have like price reductions might just be a part of a strategic correction, let's call it.
Hmm.
But it's not a sign. Don't automatically assume that it's a sign from that the seller is desperate.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because that's not what we're going through right now. What we're going through is a correction in the market.
Hmm.
And so if you are and this is another thought. If you're trying to get a hold of data, recent data, you got to look at yes, you got to look at closed sales. But buyers, on the other hand, would need to compare what that next house went on the market for. What's the list price of that new house on the market or that,
Hmm.
resale house on the market? And also, you have to look at the pending homes. And what pending means is that they're under contract and they're pending closing, and some of the conditions that are set forth in the contract towards closing.
Okay.
And you have to stick in the same area in order to make your pull up your comparables and so forth. And sometimes you can get your agent, and I always recommend a buyer's agent. I mean, it's
Hmm.
it's it's so important to have a buyer's agent. Um, and if you're a buyer's agent and you are um, uh, you happen to see properties that are already on the market or off the market, sorry, and in a pending sales situation, maybe the agent, the listing agent, and you can try and call them up and say, hey, how close did you get to your list price?
Right.
Right? And then that helps your buyer try to understand, well, okay, well, we shouldn't put in a lowball offer, maybe
Right.
something more reasonable that we can find a happy medium, so to speak. So that's certain kind of strategies that you can use and really active for buyers, and pendings are a good reflection of what today's buyer is actually doing and
Hmm.
what the market is actually doing. So price history. So look at the price history in the days on market. When you're looking for a house and you're a buyer, look at the price history, look at the days on market, see, is there a home that's been sitting longer than maybe the others have
Oh, yeah.
that are similar to it? Maybe they might be open to negotiation on price,
Hmm.
or maybe even certain terms. Like maybe they would rather uh, have more days under contract, or maybe they would rather have more repairs done to the house.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
those are things that you can do. I also think that if you're a buyer and you have a seller who's been, let's face it, smart enough to get a home inspection, which a pre-listing home inspection,
Sure.
that's also not any kind of red flag or anything.
Hmm.
What that is the seller doesn't want any unpleasant surprises.
Sure.
They know that they're going to try and sell the house as is, and what that might do is entice the buyer into possibly, hey, maybe the buyer's already got a home inspection, or seller's already got a home inspection. It's completely third party. It's not somebody that the seller has in their pocket, so to
Right.
speak, but it's giving you a heads up, because the seller wants to do the right thing.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
no,
yeah, you know.
it's a confidence. Now, you talked about strategy, and I know that there are people who have said that if you see price, a price reduction, that's a good sign to wait, to like try to wait out the seller. That doesn't sound like it's been your experience, that you're not going to get into a bidding war downwards, are you?
Well, no, not typically not.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay.
but but if you're sitting on the market now, nowadays for 30 to 60 or more days, okay, then oh, don't automatically think that it has issues.
Hmm.
And because in reality, it's just maybe an early overpricing, or maybe it was poor timing. And here's the thing, sometimes sellers there's two different types of sellers. One seller is, I'm going to do everything mechanically, electrically, structurally, and keep the house really, really sound.
Hmm.
And but I'm not going to change anything when it comes to my taste,
Right, the
to
aesthetic.
match a yeah, to match a buyer's taste. But then you have a different kind of seller, which is, I'm going to make everything look beautiful and exactly the way a buyer is interested in, but I'm not going to get read a new roof, even though it's at the end of its lifespan, or and I'm not going to get a new HVAC system, even though it's kind of on the blink. So different kinds of sellers like that.
Right.
And then you have something that's somewhat in between. And I think some sellers just want have a good conscience and do get a pre-listing home inspection. But listings with longer market times, what that sometimes does do is give buyers a little bit more leverage, maybe a little bit more room to negotiate, but most importantly, a pressure-free decision can be made.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. We have to know by Friday, or somebody else is taking it, that kind of thing.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you don't have competition. So it allows you to do a little bit more homework, talk to your agent a little bit more about what might be expected, and look at more comparables. It's because that kind of timing is important. That kind of knowledge is important, and you know. Quite frankly, price reductions. When a home hits the market, it's a good idea for sellers to kind of live with the list price for a
Hmm.
couple of weeks at least
Right.
and gather maybe some feedback, okay? But if showings are slow or a buy or well, that indicates that buyers aren't that interested anymore, okay? Then maybe do a price reduction middle of the week or something like that, and then the listing will show up on the hot sheet the next day, and these are buyers and their agents are looking for maybe weekend tours or something like
Hmm.
that. You can
But
do it
there's
that way.
interest. Hmm.
But every price change, this is the good news for sellers. Every single price change renews the attention that listing is going to get.
So it's like an algorithm, in social media. We've tweaked the price, and
Yeah.
so now the bots or whatever it is, the that searches the web, will pick up on it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So what it does is it places the house or the property back on all the alert systems, and those
Hmm.
alert systems increase the visibility.
Sure.
And yeah, so if you do a well-timed price reduction, it can even spark multiple offers just at that point because now it's a price adjustment,
Hmm.
and that's okay. So buyers should really stick with their buyer's agent and
Hmm.
and 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 look at what the market is actually doing. And so, and you know what? We have to understand the difference between a true price reduction or maybe a still overpriced house, right?
Hmm.
So what's
Sure.
happening is you have some listings that are reduced, but they actually still remain kind of overpriced.
Oh.
And when this happens, the when the seller has started too far above the market value to begin with.
Hmm.
And then they
Gotcha.
start to reduce it in small increments. And that's called chasing the market. Okay.
Hmm.
And then even after the price cut, then these homes, end up maybe still lagging behind some similar inventory
Okay.
and if they do, then then the buyers can come in and possibly be aggressive with their offer.
Hmm.
And so
Well,
but it bring
it depends on the agents too. If a seller's agent is not able to get them to get a realistic offer out there, it might be hard for them to negotiate too, wouldn't
it can be
it?
because price reductions, after a price reduction and then all of a sudden the seller gets some more interested parties, then sometimes you know, they think it's going, oh, now I'm going to get over what I'm asking for it.
Right.
But the idea is to renew the interest,
Hmm.
and then when you're renewing that interest, it becomes more of a strong buyer engagement at that point, and that's a good thing. Um,
It sounds like to me that trust, and we've talked about trust issues quite a bit. With you, you're very clear and very transparent, not just the realtor's code of ethics, but your own internal
core
extra,
values,
you know.
yeah, yeah, core
Um,
values.
that being able to trust the advice of someone
Mhm.
is going to be the hardest part in the process, especially if it's somebody coming to the neighborhood from out of town. They're moving to the area. So you really need to almost, make sure you have a buyer's agent that you trust to help you on that mission, right?
It's huge. And I think that if you don't have a buyer's agent, you are kind of like going to a bullfight without a sword.
Now we're back to cows and cattle. We're having the rodeo around the block again. Um, yeah, I see what you're saying though. Yeah, you don't want to go in poorly armed.
You don't. And frankly, and I know people have this weird way of thinking that uh, you know that agents only think about their commission. That is so far from the truth, it's not even funny. Will you get a few bad apples? Yeah. But if you trust, you can trust your agent in almost all cases.
Hmm.
And the reason you can is because we are so regulated, it's not even funny. And so,
I had no
so,
idea.
yeah, right, exactly. Um, and quite frankly, you can kind of learn a little bit more, about that if you go to Find Homes realty.com/podcast and listen to all our recordings. I think
That's
you'll
true.
enjoy some of that.
Yeah.
Um, and buyers can use this market right now to their advantage
Hmm.
because price reduced homes, they represent an opportunity, not a risk. Okay. If you are approaching them strategically, which you need to have an agent to do. And quite frankly, I mean, I know there's a lot of people that, well, sold a house, 10 years ago and I already know everything. Well, maybe, yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, things do change over time. I think things change year over year, don't they, Cynthia?
They change quarterly. To
Okay.
to be honest. And even our forms change twice a year.
Hmm.
So semi-annually, just our forms change. The law changes, every year. Something changes.
Hmm.
And so we have to stay on top of it. And that is what your agent does. Okay.
Hmm.
And so if you've got the right mindset, you're not out to, for blood, trying to get this seller to knock their price $100,000 off or something.
Correct.
And if you're in the right mindset and you have the right guidance by your agent, then you can actually use these types of shifts that we're going through right now to find value
Hmm.
and to honestly avoid competition and even negotiate favorable terms for you and your family or whatever.
Sure,
But
that does make sense.
stay informed. That's the biggest thing. Stay informed, work with your agent. They track real data, real-time data, and not you're tracking historical data as well, so you take that into consideration. But I wouldn't go back any more than 3 to 6 months to
Sure.
track that data.
Can you
And
track data for the house?
mhm.
I mean, when I bought my house, just because there were, the internet, nothing ever leaves the internet. I was able to find listings for the same house in three previous sales, which also told me that the house had been sold three times in about 7 years.
Ooh,
And so that was an indication of something.
yeah,
We could also see the changes to the house and who did what, and
sure.
and that kind of thing. So you were able to kind of, okay, let's look past the kitchen, let's look under the kitchen, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
That's right. And the thing is that your the history for the listing itself, or the house, the address itself, okay,
Hmm.
is it's kind of a little bit of a catch-22 because that history might be telling you, oops, has this actually been bought and sold too often? Maybe there's a reason why. And
Hmm.
there's no reason why your buyer's agent, can't go back to those other agents and say, what do you know?
Yeah.
And then maybe position you as the buyer into a better negotiating position at that point.
Right.
So and you know what, you're in the past, you know in the 2020 to 2024,
Good old days.
uh, ugh, you know everybody was overpaying for daggone real estate.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, you, you might land a great deal, you might land a good deal, and you might land an okay deal. And it's okay, any of these things are good. But I gotta really emphasize something here.
Hmm.
Price reductions are not necessarily red flags.
Right.
They are signals, yeah, but they reflect how the market is moving. And 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 basically it offers buyers, leverage, maybe even opportunity,
Hmm.
but you got to stay active in your search and you got to be open to even revisiting homes that maybe have recently dropped their price. Maybe you already visited them
Right.
when they were on the market to begin with and revisit them again. And then position yourself to move quickly when that timing and the prices are right at that point. So you got
Right.
to, in a slower, more balanced market, which we're heading towards.
Hmm.
You watch 2026. Smart buyers are going to follow the data no matter what.
Well, and also, the majority of homeowners, they're looking for a home.
Hmm.
They're not looking to, score a deal and flip something. They're not looking for, oh, we found this house for a buck 380 and now we sold it for $300,000.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
you're looking for a place to live, a place to raise your family, a place to retire and spend your latter years.
Hmm.
And so you don't want to waste money, but you're also, I don't think, and maybe there are folks who are speculators and they're out there trying to find that, deal that nobody knows is there. But
Right.
for the most part, that's not what you're looking at.
Well, pretty much because most of the people that are in the in the market right now, and it almost always has been a they're either resales, they're trying to find their home, their family home, their
Hmm.
whatever they're trying to find, and it's there are investors still out there, and there will become more of investors, I think, in 2026 out there, and for you to position yourself now to be able to that when the price is right. you know and so and in a slower market, more balanced market, those smart buyers that actually do follow the data that we were talking
Hmm.
about, they're not following the fear. Okay, those
Right.
are the ones that actually can come out ahead.
Hmm.
And I think those are the best positioned buyers out there. So honestly, go. So, our you mentioned our core values. We'll talk about that for a minute because find an agent that has good core values.
Hmm.
You know, loyalty, integrity, service, thoroughness. That's huge. So you got to create that environment of respect
Hmm.
and honoring one another, and by doing unto others as you would have done unto you. And you got to earn that trust you by consistently doing the right thing even when no one is looking.
Yep.
And you got to have those moral motives that actually create ethical actions,
Hmm.
and that speaks louder than words, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the things Cynthia stands on and has. And you mentioned going back and listening to the podcast. I
Hmm.
think we did a whole show specifically on that. I mean, if you want to get into real specificity on Cynthia's um, core values and Find
Hmm.
Homes Realty's core values and the things that drive them, I think there is a whole one of these programs on that early on.
Yeah, probably so. And and honestly put the needs of others before yourself,
Hmm.
because quite frankly, you don't pretend. you know, but you can do this creatively even, and with creativity, by basically thinking outside the box, but within the letter of the law.
Hmm.
And the thoroughness, you know what? You have to dedicate yourself to mastering your field in order to earn mutual commitment and
So well
loyalty.
said. Yeah.
Yes, between yourself, your client, your company. I don't care who you work for. I don't care what you do for a living. Those core values can really resonate
Mhm.
with just being a good employee, or being a good boss, or
Or
being a good realtor.
contractor, is
Hmm.
somebody who ethically deals with other people and, in and around their business.
That's
You have
right.
all these folks that you work with, inspectors especially notable, but and any number
Yeah.
of people that you have to deal with. If they don't like you, they're gonna, I hate to say it, but people will do that.
Yeah, they will. And you have to be very careful. And I think that if you ever, let me just say, if you ever need to know how to interview an agent, give me a ring, because there are times when I've had people, helped people sell houses or do whatever in this area, and they're moving to Timbuktu, and they go, they'll contact me. Can you find me a realtor? Because none of these people are working out for me.
Oh, where they move to. Yeah.
They wherever they move to. Yeah,
It's kind of
exactly.
nice that you become the like the confidant there. It's
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, can you fly out here for 3 weeks and help us find a house? Kind of thing.
Usually what it is we have, this, you have huge databases where we can find a realtor, and when we end up taking a, you know, like I use a lot of what's the letters behind their name. I use, if I can get a hold of statistics as to what they've sold, all those
Mhm.
kinds of things. And I can kind of read right through their BS, you know, and when I talk to them, it just narrows it down even further. So I do help people do, with nationwide referrals. So
Well, we
yeah.
appreciate it as always. Cynthia Hash, findhomesrealty.com. And you have a wonderful weekend. I hope the weather doesn't put a damper on home sales or anything like that. But next time we speak, it'll be what is it? It's Black Friday. It's Small
So
Business Saturday.
yeah,
So it'll be
yeah,
Small
yeah.
Business Saturday next time we're on the air.
So
And
everybody, happy Thanksgiving.
happy Thanksgiving. And don't forget, Find Homes Realty is a small business.
Yes, indeed.